Welcome to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25 Media. We feature top founders, executives, and business leaders from all over the world.
Chad Franzen here, co-host of Top Business Leaders. It features entrepreneurs and top leaders in the business world. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. We help B2B businesses reach their dream relationships, connect with more clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships, and get ROI through Done-For-You podcasts. If you have a B2B business and want to build great relationships, there's no better way than to profile the people and companies you admire on your own podcast. To learn more, go to rise25.com or email us at support@rise25.com. My guest today is Jason Ogden, president and partner at Syrup, a marketing agency which grows B2B companies in revenue and maturity. At Syrup, Jason leads revenue generating activities and account services and directs financial operations. He's also a husband, a father of 2 daughters, and his specialties are people and numbers. Jason, great to have you today. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks a lot, Chad. Really looking forward to being on.
Yeah, great to have you. Thanks so much. Hey, so just tell me a little bit more about Syrup and what you guys do there.
Yeah, we are a B2B agency. As you mentioned, we put together a variety of not just capabilities, but we engineered a model specifically for the needs of B2B companies. You do a lot of the same tactical things that B2C marketers do, but they have to be done and packaged and organized and executed in a very different way. And based on these different ways, we've organized a holistic model that focuses not only on bringing new opportunities into the top of the funnel, either through direct customer marketing, but also through events and partners, as well as on the bottom of the funnel, we focus on retention and expansion of existing revenue for our clients.
What brought you to Syrup you've been there for, I believe, more than 10 years now. What brought you to Syrup from your previous role at iSpeak, where you were chief operator?
Yeah. So later this year, we'll hit the 10-year mark.
Okay.
And 10 years ago, at that point, we took iSpeak, which was a creative agency that did messaging, positioning, creative, marketing websites and collateral, very project-oriented company. And we put it together with a 2-year-old marketing services startup at that point, and that was called Syrup. We took that name going forward. And what brought me forward was having worked at iSpeak for several years and really understanding the marketplace. I knew that the needs over this past decade and beyond were changing. They were changing quickly, and internal teams were going to have a really hard time keeping up with the pace of change. The addition of technical expertise and just a really elevated sense of buyer expectations. So our thesis was we're going to put a business together to address those needs, and for me that was compelling, and that's why I moved ahead.
Yeah, what is kind of just in general kind of inspired you to focus on marketing strategies that drive business growth?
Yeah. So at a purely personal level, I really like B2B because so much of it is relational and service oriented versus physical goods and transaction oriented. We all do in our everyday lives. I personally like that aspect of it. Professionally, part of our thesis was it's just an underserved market. There are a lot of marketing agencies out there. They tend to skew a little heavier B2C. And in our local economy here in Atlanta, most of the big name companies that have gone on to make a name for themselves or that exist in the startup ecosphere or even in the middle market skew pretty heavily B2B. So that's reflective of our local marketplace. So put the personal side together, put the market opportunity together, and it just made sense.
I know at Syrup, I was looking at your website. One of the services you offer is brand strategy. Can you give me kind of an overview of maybe some successful components or some components of successful brand strategy?
Yeah, I think you really have to look at it kind of across two different axes. The first is an increase in potency of how you talk about your business. Now, that could be the message that you use in marketing asset. It could be the way that salespeople talk about the business. But however it is, it gets elevated through the brand strategy exercise. And then the other axis is oftentimes an issue that clients are aware of walking in the door, which is consistency. They understand that buyers are turned off when I look on LinkedIn, I look on a website and talk to a person, and it's all three completely different disjointed conversations. It doesn't exactly instill confidence. So on the one hand, you have sort of potency and quality of message. And then on the other axis, you kind of have consistency across the whole sales and marketing ecosystem.
Yeah, you mentioned consistency. I know another service that you guys provide is visual identity. How do you kind of develop a comprehensive visual identity system, that goes beyond just a logo, and you ensure consistency and effectiveness across all branded assets?
Yeah. Yeah. So the development part of your question, really flows from the first offering, which is the brand strategy. I think there's probably the most confusion around the topic of brand in the marketplace of any of the things that we talk to prospects or strategic partners about. And people have their own kind of angle on what it is and what it means. And on the visual identity side, that lends itself to sort of a belief that it's an art project or that it's just a function of having unusually talented design creatives, when in fact, to your point, to do it well, to create something compelling and interesting that resonates, it's got to be strategic. And the strategy comes from what's in the brand strategy, how you talk about your business, who your target audience is, what they need from you, where you communicate with them, etc. So that's how you drive the quality part of the design creative. And then as far as consistency, we provide at the end of an engagement, it's typically somewhere between a 40 to 60 page guidelines document that covers every application in print and digital use, so that down the road, week 2, year 3, when you're buying assets from outside vendors, there's already criteria around this is how it's to be used at trade shows, on print assets, on video display, and here's how it's not supposed to be used. And as long as clients adhere to the guidelines, consistency will be a byproduct.
I know web development is another one of your services. In what ways would you say maybe Syrup differentiates itself in the web development industry?
Yeah. So that is a really good question. Most of the existing clients that we have, they walk in the door with some version of a templated or proprietary theme that their agencies have built for them. So basically, we're different in the sense that we start with unique content throughout the entire site. So that's written words, calls to action, site architecture. And from there, we design. And then rather than trying to dump all of that into a template or a theme, we create custom themes to wrap around the design of the specific site. To take it a bit further, because 75% of our business is marketing services, we do all of the things big and small on the backside, or under the hood, so to speak, that we would want to inherit if we were to inherit a site. So think SEO, think integration with marketing stack tools, deep customization of the WordPress CMS, which is something that most of our competitors don't take the time to do. The idea there is we want it not only to perform as a marketing asset, but we want to make sure that the end users can make whatever changes they need to do quickly and easily. So I'd say those things.
Great. I was checking out one of your recent blogs. You really provide some great thought leadership there on your website. You wrote that that marketing budgets and performance are closely intertwined. Can you kind of elaborate on how companies can effectively balance their marketing budget to achieve optimal performance?
Well, optimal performance, it really starts as to what you're up to, right?
Hmm.
Are you in growth mode? Are you in survival mode? Over the trailing, 2 years, the SaaS space, which is one of our core verticals, went from sort of I'm using this term loosely, grow at all cost kind of mindset. And then in early 2022, when conditions started tightening, it shifted completely. And they started a lot of the first time in the industry, focusing on sustainability, retention of existing clients. And it's just extremely different how you approach it from a not just a budgetary standpoint, but what are you measuring performance wise, right? So in growth at all cost mode, you're looking at things like web traffic and form conversions, which are, always on the table. But we saw a huge shift during this trailing 2 year period towards not just a focus on existing customers, that bottom of the funnel piece we talked about earlier, but also on partner-led motions. So how can I market to my strategic partners for the benefit of getting new business that way versus trying to market directly to customers?
What role do you think technology plays in shaping modern marketing strategies?
That is a loaded question, right? That was, when we think back to the thesis of this business, the speed of evolution of the marketing stack was certainly one of the things that we kind of banked on. And I don't know how much I would consider or we consider when we're advising our clients technology as a strategic asset necessarily in and of itself. I think when it's thought of, when technology is brought into the equation too soon, before you have a strategy, before you have objectives, before you have like process and goals, it can end up kind of being the tail that wags the dog. And we inherit a lot of clients who have a really bloated marketing stack with things that they don't need, more common than that, things that they don't use. And they bought under the auspice of, if I buy this thing, I'll have this new capability and it will just happen. Well, the technology really only enables the doing of certain types of work, and you still need to have the work done. So I think there's a lot of dissatisfaction in the marketplace, technology wise, when they think they're buying a new marketing capability when the tool is just there to help with that. Now, when you switch over to more modern, trailing 15 months, you bring AI into the conversation. And I think on the negative side there, you certainly have ethical considerations when you're in services space, right? Number one, we're not going to use it to generate content, be it design or copy. There's risk around intellectual property infringement. And there's also, it's to be determined whether or not the marketplace will accept content generated by AIs, be it design or written word, or I saw a really terrible video on LinkedIn today that was AI generated. So we don't know if the market would even accept it anyway. That said, it can be a very powerful tool. Back to your original question on the strategy side, specifically, once we understand clear objectives of what we're trying to accomplish, when we're in the broader ideation stage and we want to go wide with what's possible and what could we do before we decide what we should do, a team on a whiteboard and an AI taking things from there and expanding and giving new options is a real value add to strategy. Rarely in and of itself is it going to give you all the answers. Like, I think at some level we all believe, oh, I just need to type in a few words and I'll have all the right output. That's not really the state of it right now. But it can absolutely be a force multiplier in idea generation.
When it comes to kind of developing a holistic marketing strategy, is it a challenge or is it important to balance short-term tactics that may be good right now with long-term strategy?
It's essential. Um, One of the things, and that's a great question, is a lot of non-marketing oriented business leaders walk into the conversation, and the discipline and field of marketing is that which they know the least. So it tends to become, I saw somebody over there do this, why don't I do that? Or I read an article about this, why aren't we doing this? And it just by its own nature becomes this de facto list of individual tactics. Um, in terms of balancing revenue versus maturity, which is, I think, really the center of your question here. If you're doing marketing, yes, you've got to focus on the activities that generate revenue during this calendar year.
Mm.
Where people start missing the boat is when they think that that's all that marketing is, and that they only care about that one thing, when in reality, a portion of your budget you need to start building so that in year 2 and year 3, you'll have additional capabilities that you don't have today. And being effective in marketing, especially in the B2B space, it's not just turn on a switch. I mean, it takes a long time for things to materialize in some cases. So part of our holistic model, an aspect of it is cadence, and we have a very well defined structure where within any given 90-day period, we're focusing on those things that drive revenue, that drive opportunities into the funnel. But every 90 days, we sit down with our clients, look at past performance, look at business goals. Are you guys on track, off track? How does the state of the funnel overall look? And let's consider making an investment in that strategic realm so that 6 months from now, 12 months from now, we'll be able to do things that we can't do today.
So how do you measure success of a marketing initiative and campaign?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what the objectives are, right? It could be geared at new business, something that's account oriented, and that becomes easy. It's just a number of conversations that you generate from a targeted list of, somewhere between 1 to 300 accounts usually. Or it could be, we need to do a Sleeping Beauties campaign. And that could be people that have been sitting silent in a CRM for a long time. The data is not scrubbed or organized or segmented, and we come in and we organize all that, and then we warm them up and generate opportunities from pre-existing contacts. And then back to kind of in a trailing 15 months, it's very much been a function of partner-led events like we talked about. So how many conversations or direct referrals, two different measurables, have I gotten from my partner network over the trailing period. So again, it really depends on what the objectives are. And back to that maturity piece, that's a lot harder, right? Because everybody wants to send the performance and ROI. But how do you measure the performance and ROI of an investment in your brand or in a CRM, right? You need to do those things, and they're pretty costly. So how do you measure it? Do you allocate it over the 3 to 5 year life value of the project? So we have to have very real conversations about people with our clients about the value and the long-term strategy before they invest.
What role does customer feedback play in shaping your marketing strategy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At minimum, it's a baseline. And what I mean by that is if our clients have an aspirational future state, and that could be either in growth numbers or clients under management or something quantifiable, or it could be something a little softer like market perception or client satisfaction, something of that nature. The client feedback serves as a baseline in terms of where are you today relative to that future state goal, and do you have a lot of work to do or a little bit of work? And then on the other end of the spectrum, it can be one of the most valuable assets that you have. Your customer success data, whether this is written testimonials, reviews on a third-party site, video testimonials, introductions into new prospects and opportunities that your clients will walk you in the front door. There's all kinds of value that comes from that on the back end, but you've got to earn all that.
Do you find yourself having to adapt a strategy maybe midway due to changing market conditions or consumer behavior trends?
You mean like in the last 4 years or so?
Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to our 90-day cadence, that's when we're always looking at those things. On average, Chad, what we try to advise our clients is if we're going to try something new and different, we would ask you to give it a 6-month horizon, barring something severe in the real world happening, and we'll measure and see how it's doing over that period of time, and not to start reading false negatives and hyper adjusting too quickly. That said, the last 4 years has had a lot of ups and downs in a short period of time. So our 90-day cadence is where we've really had the ability to either scale things down, especially in the category of media spend, has been one where people can get their budgets under control quickly if they need to, or we reallocate resources, be it across content or all the other technical disciplines.
I have one more question for you, but first, just tell me how people can find out more about Syrup.
Yeah, go to syrup.com, check us out on the About page, or you can find me at LinkedIn, Jason Ogden, helping B2B companies solve growth problems.
Final question for you. If somebody you knew, maybe a friend's kid or something, decided that they were going to devote their career to marketing, what advice could you give them based solely on your experience that they couldn't learn in school or something like that?
Right. It's a lot different to provide marketing services and advice to people than it is to be marketed to. We are the most marketed to society in the history of the world, only until next year where we become more and more marketed to. And I think a lot of young people only see the sizzle aspect, the cool thing that got their attention, when in reality, it's a lot of fundamentals that don't really change a lot over time. It's a lot of convergence of creativity, data, technical skills, and ideas. And it can be pretty chaotic if you don't have a good structure in terms of how you make decisions and how you execute work. Whether you're in an agency or in a brand, it can be a pretty chaotic realm to work in.
Okay. Hey, Jason, it's been great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time and all of your thoughts and your insights. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chad. Really enjoyed it, man.
So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25. Visit rise25.com to check out more episodes of the show and to learn more about how you can start your own podcast.